All right, so we are live to talk about, well, to have an Ask Me Anything session. Ask me anything about the foundations of culturally responsive music education. Give me one quick second. I'm just going to put the link to the course in the chats and all the places. By the way, if you see me looking side to side, hold on, I cannot do this at this angle. I'm live on all my channels. And so if you see me looking side to side, that's why. And I'm sorry that it looks crazy right now because my little setup so that I can have my phone, I just can't type like that. All right, so let's get into it. Ask me anything about the Foundations of Culturally Responsive Music Education course. The course enrollment for our very first fall open enrollment session is closing tomorrow, Wednesday, October 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's not too late if you would like to join us for this deep dive into the full framework for culturally responsive music education. And so before we jump into our Ask Me Anything, let me just introduce myself in case this happens to be your first time coming across me. I'm Ashley Cuthbertson. I use the pronouns she and her, and I'm the CEO and founder of A. Cuthbertson Consulting. We're an educational consulting firm that specializes in helping K-12 music educators connect with their learners so that they can provide high quality, engaging instruction for students regardless of their background and ability, so that they can build skills that are useful to them both inside and outside of the music classroom. And I myself am a former K-12 through K through 12 music educator here, based here in the DC metro area, but we have clients, schools, school districts, and teachers all across the United States and even internationally. We have several teachers that we've been privileged enough to be able to work with in Canada. Really, what's important to me is that music educators, who are the hardest working folks that I know, have the proper professional learning support that they need to be able to help equip our students with the skills that they need to be competitive in our global society, right? It's not longer good enough for kids just to have math skills, be able to read, be able to comprehend. They also need to be able to innovate, think critically, and also be able to have strong interpersonal skills, right? And so music really helps to build all of those things, that whole child learning. The unfortunate part is that music educators often are the very last people, hey Isis, the very last people to get any sort of professional learning. Oftentimes when I work with school districts, fine arts supervisors or the assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, they come to me because they don't have a plan for the professional development needs of their music teachers. They also don't know where to go, right? The unfortunate reality is because music teachers often are left to just kind of, hopefully figure it out for themselves. And because we often just don't get the proper support we need, music educators often kind of suffer in silence. I'm finding out more that is becoming more of a reality. Let me say it this way. It's becoming more apparent to me that that's a reality for not just one or two people, but a lot of people. I think part of it is, and I won't get off on too long of a tangent, maybe this is the content for live another day. Hey, Angelica. Hey, Angelica. Good to see you. This is probably a content for a live for another time, but what I'm finding is more and more music teachers, I'm getting lots of DMs and emails, which I love hearing from you, by the way. So if you have not sent me a DM, if we have not had a conversation or an email, let me know. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But more and more teachers, they might not comment on my post, but they'll send me a DM, I'm finding, to share about kind of just like the agony of having to have so many students that have so many diverse needs, and the struggle and kind of the agony of how can I meet all of the needs of my students and who do I turn to be able to do it. So a lot of times when people hear the term culturally responsive teaching, yeah, I said you're absolutely correct. Theater, that's also a problem. Visual arts, I would say the arts in general, a lot of arts teachers are kind of suffering in silence, and there's just not, we don't know where to turn, right, for proper professional development, coaching support, curriculum development support. It's definitely a problem in the arts, right? And so thank you, Isis, for mentioning that. My friend Isis, who's a former theater teacher and an actor, and awesome. So you should check out Isis Sculpted Clay if you're not already following her. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off of what I wanted to talk about, but I did want to mention a little bit of the reason why I created this foundations course. So I think it's important I know if you're here watching, it's probably because you have some questions, right? And some concerns. We're going to answer some of those. I wrote down some of the questions that people have been sending me via email, via DM. So if you have a question that you want me to answer, go ahead and drop it into the chat or into wherever you are. I'm across Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I should be able to see it. So leave me your question there. I'll answer the ones I have first here, and then I'll come around to those. But as I was saying before, I'm getting a little bit off of a tangent. It's important for you to know that the reason I created this foundations course is because so many music teachers are just hungry, thirsty, right, for proper professional development. They want to have somewhere to go. They don't want to rely on just kind of hunting and peckling and Googling and trying to figure it out on their own, especially when so many of us have, I used to have 9 and 10 classes a day that I taught. When did I have time to really do all that Googling and hunting at home on my family time, my friend time, my self-care time on the weekend, right? And so I created this course. First of all, I created the course in its original iteration. It's a series of workshops that I used to actually only offer to my partnerships with schools, districts, and organizations. But as I've been working this past year full-time in my company at Cuthbertson and Consulting, it's like so clear that more music teachers need me to lower the barrier of entry to have access to it. So I kind of retooled it a little bit and made it a full course. Full transparency, my kind of long game hope is that not only will this be a course that you can get graduate credit for, but also it will be like a certificate, because it is that level of depth that I have put into really equipping music educators with what they need to be able to be successful, to meet the diverse needs of their students. And let me be really clear, because I think one of the questions, actually, let's answer the first question. So the first question is this for me? I received various iterations of, is it for me? One of them was, is it for me? I'm an orchestra teacher. Another was asking, is it for me? I'm a teacher of color myself. I work with students of color. Do I need culturally responsive training to work with my students? The answer is yes, it's for everybody who is a K-12 music educator with an asterisk. It is for K-12 music educators who are dedicated and committed to the success of every one of the students in their program. And so if you don't fundamentally believe that every student in your program can and will achieve at high levels with the proper support, then actually no, this is not going to be for you, because the premise of culturally responsive teaching is that with the proper connections and support, all students will thrive, right? It's also not about race, right? So one of the things that's been really interesting is that a lot of times, not interesting, just, I don't know what the word is, not interesting, but something that I have encountered many times is that teachers of color often are kind of assumed that we already know how to be culturally responsive. We already know how to be culturally proficient. And the reality is all of us are living in this kind of smog of white supremacy, right? And whiteness, especially in the United States. And it's not necessarily inherent that you know what it means to be culturally proficient, what it means in practice to be culturally proficient. It also is not inherent that you yourself are exactly like the students that you teach, right? So I am a Black woman, but I taught students of all backgrounds. I taught white students, I taught Black students, I taught Hispanic students, I taught everybody, right? But one thing that I think is important to note is just because the color of your skin is similar to, or maybe even the same as your students, culture is not about race or ethnicity, right? Culture is about the prior experiences and knowledge and interests that a person has, and how those experiences and frames of reference contribute to how they move and groove in the world, right? So just because you might look like your students or they might look like you does not mean that you have the same experiences or the same points of view. And somebody who is culturally proficient would actually not ask me that question, right? So when somebody asks me a question like that, I am a teacher of color, I work with students of color, doesn't that mean I'm probably already culturally responsive? The fact that you're even asking that question means you need to be in this course. It means that you need some support around what does it mean to be culturally proficient? What is that continuum of cultural proficiency? And how can you know where you are so you know where to go next, right? So the question of, is this for me? Yes, if you teach K-12 music and you fundamentally believe that every student in your program, regardless of their ability, regardless of their background, can and will be successful given the correct supports, this is for you, right? It's not about your race or ethnicity. It's not about your students' race or ethnicity. In fact, some of you have heard me speaking about this, and actually I'm going to speak about this on Friday when I'm in Delaware to present at their state arts conference. It's music, art, theater. Yeah, music, art, and theater. I actually advocate, I think that our white students more need our teachers to be culturally proficient, because the fact is our society needs for all kids to not be so focused on their own background and abilities being superior to others. And because of the way our society works, often and our curriculums are created, the way our instruction is often delivered, it centers a certain kind of experience. And so then when you go out in the world and you're encountering people who are different from you, it's more likely you're going to struggle, and more likely that you're going to have difficulty with those interpersonal relationships, because you did not have an education that was culturally responsive and helped you to develop cultural proficiency. And so if you're asking that question, like I said before, that is why you need to be in the course, because somebody who already has developed understanding around what culturally responsive teaching is, what it looks like in the music context, would not need to ask me, is this for me? I teach orchestra. Is it for me? I'm a teacher of color, right? You wouldn't even ask me that question. And hopefully that's not, actually, I hope that is direct, because I think it's important that we have a frank discussion about that. Thank you, Angelica. Yeah, I think it's important we have a frank discussion. So if that makes you uncomfortable that I said that, that's an opportunity for you to reflect, right? Okay, so that's the first question. I had many questions around time. So some people asked about, if I need to miss a session, what happens? I had questions around, is it going to be offered during the week? Saturdays are difficult for me. And so last year I did a variety of virtual programs and workshops and different things virtually, as well as, my in-person things with school districts and, schools that I work with. What I found last year was when I did kind of a combination of some things were in the evening, some things were on the weekend, overwhelmingly so, folks would always say, we love what we did. The course was great. The program was great. The workshop was great, but it's really hard to engage in the evenings. And, Saturdays might be a better choice. And so I made the decision for this course, especially since I don't want it to be another knowledge dump, because you don't need more information, you need skill development, right? So I'm sure if you're listening to this, you have lots of information about culture responsive teaching. You don't need more information, you need skill development. And that's really what the sessions are going to be focused on, is yes, the knowledge part, but also a lot of the practice part. My goal is for you, when you go back into your classroom on Monday after each session, that you have practiced some of the skills while we were together in our container. So you're not going in front of your kids trying stuff out for the very first time, right? You've had a little bit of practice so that you're going to step in front of them a little more confident and a little more capable, right? The reality is, because as music teachers, our schedules are so tough, right? Especially right now, it's marching band season. I know musicals for the winter auditions are happening. A lot's going on for us as music teachers in the mornings, in the evenings, and on the weekends. The reality is, I know it's hard to get to classes, courses, professional learning things in the evening. I also know it's hard on the weekend, but my choice to do this particular course on Saturdays is that my hope is, even if you have to miss one session, which missing one is perfectly fine because everything is recorded. That's the nice thing about being virtual. My hope is that even if you have to miss one, you'll have time throughout the week to kind of catch up and do the different tasks that we practiced and talked about during that session. So you're ready to rock and roll when we come back together. I will say, if you're going to miss more than one session, you might want to not enroll in this particular cohort, because again, part of how I created this course is not just a bunch of knowledge, not a bunch of just me talking for, I think it's 5 hours each time. It's not just me talking at you. It's really practicing with the skill. It means I'm working with you as your coach to help you, right? And so to get the value of the course and the value of me working with you as you're developing those skills does mean that you need to be live. Missing one is probably not a big deal, but missing two, which is half of the course, you probably would want to wait till the next time that we do it. I was going to say one other thing and I forgot. Okay, anyway, so time. So yes, I made a conscious decision to do this on Saturdays, because the overwhelming feedback I got last year when I did programs during the week was that it's just so tough to coordinate schedules with family and kids and partners, but also it's really, your day is already so full, right? You already have stuff before school, during school, maybe you have after school rehearsals, to then try to engage in something, where your full brain is really needed. It's really difficult to do that. So I condensed it. It's kind of longer sessions, but I condensed it to be 4. So at least it's not a super long time commitment. So I condensed it into 4 sessions on Saturdays. So hopefully that helps to allow your brain to be a little bit more fresh and hopefully allow you a little bit more access. But let me know if that's something that is a concern for you, because again, I always take the feedback from my community. And so this is the first time we're offering it kind of open enrollment like this. So if enough people are saying we actually do want it to be a longer term thing, because I wouldn't do 5 hours after school. That's crazy. It'd probably be like 2 hours, and it would have to be more than 4 sessions. If enough people tell me and give me that feedback that actually Saturdays is not what we would want, then I'll make a change. So let me know if that is applicable to you, and we'll look at that for the next time for sure. Okay, so that's time. And oh, and then a few people asked me about, this time in the fall is just not going to work, right? So let me make sure I address that also. So we are going to do the course, and I'll a little behind the scenes. My team and I have actually already planned all of our what we will present to the public, I should say. So we have both our like district partnerships, schools, organizations, that kind of thing. And then we have stuff that we offer straight to teachers, like what we're doing for this course, and our November and our December workshop that we have coming up too. And so we actually already created our whole schedule for all of 2024 for all the workshops that we're going to offer virtually and in person. So keep your eye out on that. We have some announcements about some in-person workshops that we're going to be able to host, which is very exciting. But we've already planned all of when those workshops are going to happen. We're in talks with a few more people about some of the in-person, but the dates are already secured. We've also already planned when we're going to do the course for next year. There's one of those sessions of the course is still a little up in the air because it's just a matter. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just a matter of where it's going to be. So we already know that it's going to be offered a few more times. So if now is not the right time, I respect that. I would rather you join us when you're in the mindset when you can actually take in the information. And if right now is just not the right time, I totally respect that. And I'm also going to say to you, the people who decide to come on this ride this very first time with me, knowing, this is the very first time that we're doing it in this iteration, not the first time I've done the sessions, but the first time doing it virtually with teachers all over the country, you're getting a bit of a break on the rate. So right now the course is $1,200 all in for all 4 sessions, coaching with me. You also have the ability to elect to also add an additional follow-up session after the course, all of the different, actually, let me tell you right now, all the things that are included. Because I realized I meant to talk about that. I went off my little script I had here. So all the things that are included in the course. Oh no, I closed it. Give me 1 second. So 4 sessions. I know what's included in the course. I don't need to look it up. So it's 4 sessions. First session is all about developing a mindset for equity and cultural proficiency. And so especially if you're somebody who's wondering questions, like today somebody asked me, what's the line between like cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation in music? That session is going to be for you. If you're somebody who's also wondering, how do I understand who my students even are, and how do I develop the ability to create instruction that's going to connect to their frames of reference, that first session is going to be really key for you. If you're somebody who's wondering, how do I make sure that I'm not the barrier in my music program for my students to have access to high quality music education? How do I know what the barriers even are? That session is for you. We start with that session first because I can easily give you strategies and protocols and resources, and I'm going to give you all those things. And like I said before, if you don't fundamentally have some beliefs in place first, it doesn't matter how many strategies I give you. So that session is first. Second session is all about cultivating an affirming learning environment. So this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to share the actual protocols that I developed after many years of trial and error with my own students, figuring out how can I create a music learning environment such that I don't have to be in control all the time. So a little story behind that. I found myself, especially I taught mostly elementary, but I also taught band, choir. I taught K through 12. I found myself being really exhausted, feeling kind of like an octopus, trying to like do all the things in my classroom and like catch kids before they were doing. It was like too much, right? I have, classes between 26 and 30 kids, little guys, right? Often it was just so exhausting at the end of the day. All I could do is just sit on my couch and just watch whatever TV show I've watched for the 5th time, probably The Office, because that's my favorite show. And I got to the point where I was like, there has to be a better way to be able to do this where I don't have to like be in control all the time. How can I work with my kids to be able to create a learning environment where we're like partners and not me having to like be the leader all the time? And so I'm going to share during that session, what are the protocols that I developed to work with my kids to develop, like how do we want music class to basically go? How are we going to, as a community, support and work with each other? What are the things that we're going to expect of ourselves, of our peers, things like that. So I'm going to share actually those real protocols that I myself trial and error, so you don't have to. So I'm going to share those with you. But we're also going to talk about how it is that we understand the the cultural frames of reference of our students beyond a surface level. A lot of times when I work with music teachers and they tell me about their kids, they just tell me things that I frankly could go on the website and like learn from the demographic of information of their kids, right? That's not knowing your students. Knowing your students is so much more than what they look like, or if they have an IEP or a 50. It's so much more than that. And there's nuance to how do you develop authentic relationships where it's not transactional, because kids are very smart. They know when you're just talking to them because you're trying to get something from them. So how can you really develop an authentic relationship where, yes, you still need to get things from them. You still need to learn who they are, how they think, what they value, what they believe. That's really the culture part. It's not about their race. You still need to get that information. But there's ways that I found myself that allow me to do it when I only saw my kids for 30 minutes at a time, right? We know that time is a barrier for us. It also allowed me to do it in a way that didn't feel gross. Like I didn't feel transactional to me. So I'm going to share that with you in that second session. So if any of those things resonate with you, that's going to be part of that. Oh, Jocelyn has a question. Hey, Jocelyn, do you model lessons in this program or provide some sample lesson plans? Yes. So let me jump ahead to the fourth session then. So the third session is all about selecting diverse repertoire. As I said before, we need our kids to be equipped to go out in the global society and compete. And that means that they need to have experience working with diverse people. And music is such a great way to do that because it's already baked into our content if we do it right. So the third session, I'm going to show you the framework that I created for how do you research music repertoire and other musical materials. How do you research it in a way that allows you to gain the information that you need to connect it to your students' frames of reference? So I'm going to teach you all of that because pedagogically, there's some pieces of music at certain levels, like elementary, middle, high school. There's certain pieces of music at certain levels that work better for this than others. So I'll show you that. And then to answer your question, Jocelyn, in the fourth session where we get into designing curriculum for real world context and designing for instruction for variability, that's where we get into modeling, not just lesson plans, but rehearsal plans. Because again, this is not just for elementary, this is for K-12, right? So secondary folks who are wondering what will it look like, I will share some of those rehearsal plans with you. And we'll also do some of that modeling. That's the coaching part and why the sessions are a little lengthy, because I want you to have time to practice and develop some of those skills. So that third session is for you. If you're somebody who asked me questions about what's the line between appropriation and appreciation, that third session is for you. You're very welcome, Jocelyn. Thank you for coming. The third session also is for you if you're somebody who is always wondering and about causing offense through the repertoire choices that you're making. Because we know, I know that's a common concern we have as music teachers. The fourth session is for you if you're not even sure how to unpack standards. If I say that phrase unpack standards and you're like, what does that mean? That session is for you because as music teachers, we're not often taught how to do that, right? But also how to connect them to real world context of music making. If what you're teaching only makes sense within the four walls of your music classroom or your choir room, then that part is going to be for you. And then the final part of that, the fourth session is kind of like it really should have been 5 sessions, but I didn't want to make it 5. So we'll see this first time if it works, a little behind the scenes for you. The latter part of that 4th session will all be about how can we utilize universal design for learning to create for variability on the front end so you're not exhausting yourself differentiating on the back end. I really think as music teachers, differentiation is actually not helpful for us because we have too many kids to be differentiating on the back end for, and we don't have enough time. But instead, what if you could create the conditions in your instruction such that any student could walk in and be successful without you having to constantly accommodate and modify all the time. That's what burns music teachers out because we have hundreds of kids, right? So I actually think directing us to differentiate can be harmful without also having the conversation about universal design. That needs to be, that's a non-negotiable for me with the teachers that I work with because it's not good for us to be tired and exhausted, and there's a better way. So that's a little bit about the 4 sessions. Like I said, it's virtual. So all sessions are going to be recorded and you'll have access to those recordings for 90 days after, because we know sometimes you just need to watch it again, right? So you'll have access for 90 days after. I've created workbooks for all of the different sessions. So you'll have that to guide you along, as well as my personally curated resource list. I'll be sharing all of that with you and additional resources that I know that you're going to need as you're going through this course. So that's a little bit of information about that. So back to answer the question about time, several people asked about time and different kinds of things. So you might not have the time to do this right now. Totally understand and respect that, right? I want you to engage when you're ready to engage. We are going to do it next year, more than one time, I'll say that. But here's the caveat that I'll say that with. So people who decide to go on this ride with me this first time, as there's probably going to be a couple of hiccups, probably going to be a couple of little things wonky, right? The course is only $1,200 this time. It will never be that price again. That price is actually way too low for the amount of effort and energy and time and support that I'm offering. And I know that. So the price is a little bit lower this first time to reward those of you who are ready to take this ride this very first time. It will never be that price again. So if money, that's actually the next question I wanted to answer. I had all kinds of questions about affording it and pricing and money and how do I want to do the course, but I just can't afford it. If money is a concern for you, then I would encourage you to not wait until next year when I offer it again, because like I said, it won't be $1,200. It will be more. And then additionally, I've offered to people who are already on my email list in my community and those that came to our September webinar, I offered a payment plan option, and I'm willing to extend that. So we kind of turned off the ability to do the payment plan. But if that is the barrier, that's the obstacle to you having the support that you need in this season, I don't want money to be a barrier. So send me a DM on whatever platform you're watching. If you happen to have my email, that really is me on the other end answering those emails. Send me an email if that payment plan option is something you would be interested in. The payment plan option is a $260 deposit, and then it's, I forget how many additional $260 after that it is. And so if that is the barrier for you, then let's talk about how we can remove that barrier. Just send me a DM, send me an email, and I'd be happy to set that up. A caveat to that is enrollment closes tomorrow at 5. So in order to be part of this first cohort of teachers doing this, if we're going to do a payment plan, we got to work it out ASAP. So don't wait. Send me a DM now, even if you're just wondering what additional options there might be. Just send me a DM, send me an email, and let's talk about it. Because if you wait until, Wednesday, if you wait till Wednesday night after 5, I'm not going to be able to help you because now my attention is going to turn to the course itself. So if money is the barrier for you, let's have a conversation, because I don't want that to be a barrier for you. Like I said, it will never be this price again. So if it really is a barrier, like you probably should be this first time while it's a little bit less, the cost is a little bit less. The value is not less though, right? Because the value is, I could be charging way, way more. I've chosen not to, right? So let me know if that is something that you want to further discuss. Okay, so all the questions kind of fell into those 3 buckets. And so I kind of condensed them just for time's sake, but I'm going to hang on for another few minutes for any other questions that folks might have. And so let me look over here. Let me know in the comments. If I don't see any questions in the next minute, I'm going to pop off for the evening, and then let me know via DM, via email, if you have something that you want to discuss or any other questions or any other solution you want to poke out with me. What else should I tell you about the course? So I told you about the 4 sessions. I told you about where the sessions are all on Saturdays. They're 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, that is a big chunk of time. And the reason, like I said, is because it's not just a bunch of knowledge and slides. It's skill practice time. I want you to go in your classroom on Monday, having practiced the things, or ready to rock and roll. Oh, yes, Jocelyn, thank you for asking that. Yes, you can have your school pay for you. And so that is also an option that you would like to take. Again, send me an email so we can set that up ASAP. I can absolutely send a purchase order or an invoice to your school so that you can pay for it. And actually, that's the best way, right? Your school wants you to be successful, because when you're successful, your kids will be successful. So definitely make sure that you talk to your administrator about what professional learning funds are available, because you do have professional learning funds available to you at your school. And so make sure you know what is available to you, and let me know ASAP if that is the option you want to take, so that we can make sure that we are in touch with your administrator in your school about setting it up. Thank you, Jocelyn, for asking that question. Okay, what else did I tell you about the course? So about the 4 sessions, they're on Saturdays. They're knowledge, but skill also development, so that you're ready to rock and roll in your classroom on Monday morning, having tried the things out, so you are confident and capable of what you're going to do. Not the first time, trying things out with your students. You're going to get the resources to support you along with each session, workbooks, my own curated lists and things such as that. You'll have access to the recordings for 90 days later, because sometimes we just got to watch it again, right? Like I said before, if you are a teacher a K-12 music educator who knows that there are ways to make sure that every student in your program is successful, right? It's not about race or ethnicity. It really is about how do we make sure all of our kids are successful. Then this is for you. It's not about any particular discipline of K-12 music. It's K-12 everybody. And it's also not necessarily for any particular age range, elementary, middle, high school. It's for all of us. All right, so I don't see any additional questions. Let's look over here, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Thank you, those of you who hopped on. Thank you for your questions. Those of you that are watching the replay, thank you for watching. Hopefully I answered your questions, but like I said, if I did not, send me a DM, send me an email. I don't see any others. So let's wrap it up. So enrollment closes for the Foundations of Culturally Responsive Music Education course tomorrow, Wednesday, October 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm in the Eastern Standard Time zone. I will close it at 5 p.m. So if you need to have a conversation with your school about having them pay, or if, my battery is low. If you need to have a conversation with me about other options or solutions, get in touch with me now. Don't wait until 4 o'clock tomorrow. Let me know right now. I'll be up for, it's only 8:30. I'll be up for a while. I'll keep my eye on my DMs and my email. Tomorrow, I'll keep an eye all day until 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let me know how I can support you in getting you into this course, this first time that we have it available in this format. I would love to see you inside. And that's all I got for now. So let me know how I can, what questions or concerns I can address. And I hope to see your name coming across my registration list tonight would be better, but definitely by 5 p.m. tomorrow. All right. Bye, everybody.